this is something that can happen if you're cutting, and in this case the pressure of the log has rolled more onto this branch than I was expecting. So as I was cutting through this, the pieces where it was cut have come together and jammed the chainsaw. And the problem with this is I don't want to try and wiggle this thing out of there without taking some other precautions first, because I don't want to damage my bar. The bar, a 24-inch bar like this, is an expensive bar, so doing something irrational could end up costing a good penny when you get stuck like this. So what I'm going to do is, if I had felling wedges, this would be a lot easier, but I don't. I just have a couple axes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and wedge an axe and help separate this this gap again. So I've got my splitting maul and an axe here, and I'm basically going to use the axe as a wedge. So I'm trying to split this gap where my saw is stuck. Now I should have a pretty good size gap there and just pull the saw right out. Didn't do any damage to the saw. And obviously, it's not going to damage the axe to use it the way I just did. The axe is stuck in there pretty good, but that's a much cheaper thing to break if I end up breaking anything. And I could probably get that axe out of there just by giving it a few taps. Again. But there we go. Got the axe out. So on a cut like this, where the pressure of the tree is coming down on the limb, that's where you might want to come up from the bottom of the limb, and it'll help kind of just split it apart as the tree's weight rolls on it. This is a pretty big tree. There's another limb down here, and that's why I'm surprised the weight shifted the way that it did. I would have thought that that limb on the back side would have kept it from rolling this way. If anything, I was expecting it to go the other way. But that's not what happened. So this is just an easy way. You never want to take another chainsaw and try and cut in, because if you hit those bars together, you're gonna have a mess. You never want to just yank your blade out of here, because you could severely damage the bar, and then you're onto a new bar. And you don't want to try and run it and get the chain to turn and pull it out, because you're going to burn your chainsaw out, number one, and number two, this creates a significant kickback potential, because you're grabbing on the chain in places that it's not designed to be grabbed on while you're sawing. So besides damage to the equipment, there are some safety concerns when you end up in this situation. And using a felling wedge, which is really just kind of a wedge like the top of an axe that you would knock in there, is a great way to do it. If you have an axe, hammering an axe down in there, these splitting mauls, I always have an axe and a splitting maul, so I use my splitting maul a lot in situations like this where I need to create a wedge using my axe. And I'll actually use my axe as a felling wedge when I'm felling a tree. But that's just a real simple little trick. Next time you get your chainsaw stuck, don't fight it, just try and safely remove it. And as you can see, just from doing that, just that little bit of splitting that I was able to do from hammering this down in through the top of this crack was enough to very easily remove the chainsaw from the bind. But never fight it, never try and run it when it's bound like that. Just figure out a way to safely remove it so you don't damage the equipment and you don't have a kickback that ends up damaging you. So this is one of the things when you do end up binding your chainsaw like that, you can see the chain is kind of sticking up right here. And what was happening is somehow when I bound it up, I got a bunch of junk in the bar. So before I continue cutting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bar off and I'm going to clean it to get all this junk out of here and make sure that the chain can run smoothly in the bar again. You know, I probably could swivel it around and you can see it's starting to lay flat again, but I like to clean things out and make sure that everything's running smoothly after I bind up my chainsaw at any time, just to make sure that I'm not going to cause any more damage to the chainsaw.